Um, did you guys get a reading that it says it's being recorded now?
Yeah, you're good.
Yeah.
Okay. It said something, right? It asked
Yep.
for your permission. Okay. And tell me if I'm going too fast or too slow, or I'm just rambling, because I could, I could fix whatever I'm doing. Okay, so for your orientation, present location, direction of attack, location of objective, and key terrain and features, here's what it sounds like. You're currently located at grid coordinate 9538-6383. Direction of attack is south. Location of objective is grid coordinate 2345-6789. And you don't have to repeat that, but we'll go over that later. So you just go over that right there, and you're supposed to only repeat grid coordinates. I'm not going to do that, but you're supposed to say them, and then you say them again, and then you go to the next sentence. Yeah, you're currently looking at grid coordinate, blah, 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 and then you repeat it, blah, 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 direction of attack is south. So it's pretty quick section, and I don't know, I can't think of a situation where your squad leader who's being portrayed, or you're the captain or lieutenant who's portraying a squad leader. I can't imagine a situation where it's different for them than it is for you. You see what I'm saying? So when they're reading you the order, you can basically just copy this straight down into your skeleton. Paragraph 1. Situation provides information on the situation, obviously. For the enemy, the friendly, and any attachments or detachments that you might have. So it's broken down into those 3 subcategories. For the enemy, you can think of it in terms of salute, but it's much better to think about it in terms of T-Swally, and you'll see why in a second. T-Swally is just like a mnemonic device for remembering each of these letters. And then draw D is another one. I'll go over that in a second. I have it right here on the next slide. Friendly information, attachments and detachments, right? So for T-Swally, this is the enemy, right? EN. This is usually direct transfer as well, because if your squad leader or your platoon leader is telling you, I need you to go attack these bad guys or go spot some bad guys, whatever information he has, he's going to tell you. There's I don't see why they wouldn't. So it goes time, size, unit, activity, location, equipment. And these are all enemy details. So, and they're all relevant details. You want to know how long ago or at what time they were spotted or what time they went missing or whatever it is. And then you need to know how big the unit is so that you can prep correctly. You need to know what kind of unit it is, because in a lot of situations, there's more than one type of unit in the area. And you need to know what they're doing. You need to know their relevant location as well as possible. And of course, you need to know their equipment. And then draw D is also a part of the enemy situation. So these 2 pieces are both part of enemy. Draw D is what they're probably going to do when you hit them. They're either going to defend, reinforce, attack, withdraw, or delay. And that's something that's it's probabilistic. It's not a for sure thing. It's kind of like a best guess. So if you're fighting a group of terrorists in the middle of Iraq, if you're fighting a group of terrorists in Iraq, they're probably not going to defend and attack. They're probably going to delay you and withdraw, and they're not going to reinforce because they don't have like a well organized structure. So you see what I'm saying? So and it's important because you don't want to plan for one and then the opposite ends up happening. But although you should be prepared for both. It sounds like this. For enemy, so you would say enemy situation, and that's a point right there. When they're grading you, they have all these little things, and they're basically going tink, tink, tink. They're basically just adding up the number of ditties that you say, corresponding to what they gave you and corresponding to what you're supposed to add. So About 4 hours ago, 4 enemy fighters were spotted establishing a hasty ambush position near the crash site of a downed Marine pilot at Platoon Objective 1. They are wearing desert camouflage uniforms and armed with light machine guns and RPGs. When attacked, they are expected to delay your unit and then retreat. That's it. And it's all just one sentence, but if you notice, it does cover that T-Swally format. And if you said it in the form of salute, it would sound like shit because you would say 4 enemy fighters were seen setting up a hasty ambush at crash site Platoon Objective 1 um, 4 hours ago with RPGs and machine guns. Like, I guess that would kind of work, but let's just not go there. Situation. This is has. This goes over friendly situation, higher units, adjacent, supporting. And the important thing to remember with these two, well, I guess with all three, but mostly these two, because this one's supporting is none. But the important thing to remember here is that it's based on whoever you are. Based on individual, which is you, I guess. So let's say that you're doing Suli 2. I'm going to prep you guys for Suli 2 because Suli 1, I'm hoping you guys breeze through it, and Suli 2 will be more challenging. So let's say that you're here. You're at week 7 or 8 of OCS. You're a squad leader. Your higher unit, your higher unit is your platoon commander. But it's the guy that's reading you the Suli. So I'm going to call him instructor. That's his orders. That's his mission. So, but the thing is, when he's reading the order to you, the instructor, he's giving you a higher unit mission as well. But you don't want to copy that because that's his higher unit. That's not your higher unit. So he's going to tell you Company A, their main objective is whatever, blah, 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 right? That's not your higher unit. Your higher unit is the platoon. So you don't want to copy it directly. If you copy it directly, then, and I told you this, I'm going to slap you in the face. I'm going to go find you and I'm going to make you repeat OCS. Adjacent units, it's also based on whoever you are. If you're a squad leader and let's say you're first squad, then your adjacent obviously would be squad 2 and squad 3. Some people at OCS, they're the squad leader and they seriously go out there and say adjacent units. They say fire team 1 and fire team 2. That's not true. Those are not your adjacent units. And your company is not your higher unit. That's wrong. So don't do either of those. And these are also missions, so you want to make sure you cover the missions. So I'll give you guys a trick towards the end. For that, attachments and detachments is typically none. But at OCS, but you still have to say it. You still say attachments, detachments, none. You still say that because you're being graded on whether or not you know the op order, and you don't want to forget about the attachments and detachments. So make sure you say that there's no attachments, detachments, and then supporting units is also none. Okay, but you might have artillery, you might have close air support, you might have other units, you might have medics, you might have engineers, who knows? You might have translators. There's a lot of things you could have with you because it gets complicated out there. But you want to make sure that you just get through this. So this is what it sounds like for friendly. And again, it's all just one sentence. It sounds like a lot, but it's all just one tiny little 3 lines of sentences. The platoon is currently located. Okay, so you're a squad leader. This is from the perspective of a squad leader. Friendly situation. The platoon is currently located at the rear 50 meters of the company assembly area. Second squad is to our left. Third squad is to our right. The company's 60 millimeter mortar section is in support of second squad. It's all just pumped in there together. But for OCS, you wouldn't even need this part. You would just say attachments, detachments, none. Oh wait, 1 second, guys. Everybody keeping up pretty good, or am I lagging, or am I going too slow,
You're
or
good.
am I too boring?
You're good.
All right. So that's situation. So that covers 2 paragraphs right now. And situation as a whole is, oh, it's not loading. Where is it? There it is. Situation is the enemy situation plus the friendly plus the attachments. It's all just one big header. So these are all subcategories of the main category. Okay. So you come down here to mission. I put this in red. The mission, when you're being read, like when the instructor is talking to you and they're telling you mission, when they start saying mission, he's telling you his mission. So like I said earlier, he's mimicking, like let's say you're a fire team leader and he's a squad leader, so he's one above you. And when he tells you mission, that is your higher unit mission. That becomes your higher unit mission. So when you're recording this down in your skeleton, don't put that in your mission, because what's going to happen is you're going to write it and then halfway through you're going to say, oh shit, I fucked up. And then you're going to realize that now you don't have enough room to write your mission in the mission spot. You need to put, when he's reading mission, when they go over this, you need to put that in the higher unit mission above. So there's a little bit of leapfrogging when it comes to writing this op order. Let's see. Yeah, it goes under friendly situation. Your mission comes later on. But overall, when you're writing the mission, it comes in a certain format. It goes who, what, when, where, why. You're always covering the bases, the 5 W's, and the why always comes last, and it's the most important part because there's this idea that if you're in charge and you're a leader and you give someone an order to do something, you need to give them a reason. Otherwise, it's not even an order. It's just not correct. Like you can't just tell someone to do something. You have to tell them why. And that way they can, if you go down, at least they can carry on the reasoning behind your logic. And it also just helps, like there's even like some psychological studies behind it. Like if you ask someone to do you a favor, they might not do it, but if you give them the reason why, and it's even a dumbass reason, there's a higher chance that they'll do it. So like you can ask someone, hey, can I cut you in line at McDonald's? And they might say no. But if you say, I'm gonna be late for work if I can't get my stuff quicker. Well, it's not much of a good excuse, but if you give them a reason, they're more likely to let you. So here's a couple examples of it. I have one here and I have another, but I'll read this one. Okay, mission. At 1000 hours on 10 December 2011, First Squad will recover the downed Marine pilot on the objective in order to prevent him from being captured by the enemy. I repeat, at 10 a.m. on December 10th, 2011, First Squad will recover the downed Marine pilot on the objective in order to prevent him from being captured by the enemy. And you always repeat the mission twice. Because you want to make sure that they have time to record it, and it's the most important part of the whole order. So if you don't repeat it twice at OCS, they're gonna mark you down. And that's really easy to do. It's super easy to do. So we go into the execution. Execution is the hardest section because it's well, it's the biggest section. It's not the hardest. It's really big. I don't know which was the hardest. It includes the most subcategories. It has the commander's intent, concept of ops, tasks, coordinating instructions. We're gonna go into each of those, but I'm not entirely sure. Honestly, I kept looking at different sources, and some people have these flipped. Some people have there's subsections to each of these, and some people have those flipped. So I can't really say entirely with complete surety which way is correct. And I know that they continuously keep adding more stuff. So you go to TBS and these sections get bigger. So let's just go with what we got and make sure we understand them all at least. Execution. The first thing is commander's intent. This is usually directly from the order given to you. So when they read it, you can basically just directly copy it. Yeah, so basically the commander's intent, what the commander wants to do with the mission, focused on critical vulnerabilities of the enemy and how to exploit them. Let me see if I have an example. I might have an example. A different example, I mean. Yeah, that's all I wrote down for it. So then I'm gonna read it. So, commander's intent. The purpose of this operation is to prevent the PVA from mounting further attacks on our supply columns. The enemy's critical vulnerability is their small size and lack of heavy weapons. We will exploit this critical vulnerability by using squad-size attacks. That's it. It's almost like compressing everything down from the highest commander. And it's usually directly given. And they might say commander's intent is none. That's what I remember from mine. But you still have to say commander's intent dot none, right? Even if there's nothing there, you still have to say it because they're gonna grade you on whether or not you skip that section. And an empty section is still a section. So concept of operations. This has two subheaders right here, schema maneuver and a fire support plan, which is usually none. I don't even know entirely what fire support plan is. I think that's TBS level stuff, so I'm not going to worry about it. But fire support plan is always none. Just go schema maneuver, concept of operations, schema maneuver, and then this schema maneuver has its own list of subheaders, right? So you have the form of maneuver, which is just a description of what type of assault it is, whether it's penetration, envelopment, frontal assault, and usually it's going to be frontal assault for OCS. And let me see if I wrote anything else down. Yeah, it just describes the type of attack you're going to do. And then after you describe the type of attack, so that's like an introduction, then you're going to form your tactical control measures. Sorry for the handwriting. Basically what you're doing here at this point is you're just splitting up each of these bits here, and I'll explain them in a second. But in an overarching kind of idea, you're not actually telling anyone what to do. You're just saying, okay, first, we're gonna walk to the car. Second, we're gonna drive to the store. Third, we're gonna put the stuff in the cart. And fourth, we're gonna pay. And then fifth, we're gonna leave. Okay. So like you're just making an overall idea of what's gonna happen. And then for your form of maneuver, you would say, we're gonna go to the store and go buy stuff. You know what I'm saying? So for the form of your TCMs, the way that they break down your squad attack is they have an assembly area. Let me see, I'll change my color here. assembly area, which is where you're starting. That's where you're assembling, of course. And then your attack position. And then you do, what was TAP again? I forgot what TAP stand for. Oh, that's assault position. Yeah. No, is it? Yes. Let me make sure I have my stuff together. Okay, so you do assembly, and then from the assembly, you go to the attack position, and then you meet the line of departure at some point, and they teach us that at the line of departure is where you're supposed to radio in, tell your commander, okay, we've reached the line of departure, and you ask for permission to carry on the assault, just to make sure that like within the time span from you traveling from one point to the other, nothing's changed. And if nothing's changed, because this could be a large gap in the real world. This could be like a couple miles, so it could take you an hour, and then things might change by then. Um, so you do attack position, line of departure, and then you do assault. Oh God, I can't spell. Assault position through the objective. So I wish I would have drawn it better. You do AA, and you can do something like 50 meters to the attack position. And sometimes your instructor is going to make you do this, and mine didn't. They didn't care. They just said, get on with it, because they're tired as well. There's that. And each of these are like grid coordinates. Line of departure, assault position, objective location. And at each of these points, you're changing your formation. So you might start here walking in a squad column. Like you might walk in a formation like this, basically. You get to this point, and you might switch it up to walking in something more like a wedge. Because you're further out, you're further away from support, you might need to be more defensive. You reach that line of departure, and at that line of departure, you're getting pretty close to the enemy. So you might want to get your men online. And then you slowly creep up to the objective location. That's typically why they do that. So, but here you're just forming them. So you're telling them from the assembly area to the attack position, you're going to do squad column, fire team wedge. So you see what I'm saying? You're telling them the type of formations you're going to be in at each point in time, when you're going to switch them, and sort of like what you expect for them to do. But you're not telling them specifically who's going to do what. Attack to the line of departure, squad wedge, fire team wedge, and then a line of departure to the objective location will be squad online, fire team skirmishers. And that's kind of what I drew here. And then you're going to want to add to that just what you're going to be doing afterwards. So when you pass the objective location, let's say right here you killed all the enemy, your men or women, your people are going to make what's called a hasty 180, where you pass the objective, the commander is going to tell, or your grader, your instructor is going to tell you, okay, you've gone far enough. You can set up, there's no, what do they say? What do they say, Corpus? They say
Say what?
enemy neutralized. They say enemy neutralized.
Oh, when the enemy is gone?
Yeah, so they say enemy neutralized, and then they tell you, so then when they say enemy neutralized, you go ahead and make this hasty 180. And then they tell you there's no chance of enemy counterattack. And then you take that same position, but you separate out a little bit more into a 360 for security. And that's how you end your Suli, typically, right? That's how you end up doing it. I guess I could draw that out a little better for you guys if you want. But yeah, they're going to give you two ditties. They're going to say enemy neutralized. And when they say that, that means you can stop pushing through the assault and you can set up a perimeter, but it's a 180-degree perimeter because you're, oh God, my screen. Okay, there we go. Because you're worried that the enemy is going to push back. So you want to set up a 180 perimeter, and you don't need to set up a perimeter behind you at this point because you just came from there. And then once he says no chance of enemy counterattack, then you'll know to go ahead and fill in 360. Okay. You guys want me to go over that one more time? That was kind of strenuous. Scheme of maneuvers. Form of maneuver is just a description. Frontal assault, envelopment, penetration, flanking maneuver, and then you do the form of it. So you go over your tactical control measures here, and then you tell them assembly area to the attack position. What form are you in? Attack position to the line of departure. What position? What form are you in? And then line of departure to the assault position. What form are you in? And then assault position through the objective location. What form are you in? So there's quite a bit going on there. And then hasty 180 and consolidated 360 are always the same. You just do that across the board. There's never a time when you don't. So this is definitely going to happen to you. You're definitely going to do these steps, no matter what. Even if you get flanked, even if you fail the SULI, they're going to still require you to do hasty 180, consolidated 360, because that's just like a given. All right, I'm going to read you guys this big old sentence. You guys ready for this? Scheme of maneuver. Direction of attack is south, southeast, southeast. Our squad will destroy the enemy position with first fire team conducting a frontal assault and two fire teams, with one fire team conducting the frontal assault and two fire teams following in trace in order to reinforce if needed. From the assembly area, we will travel 300 meters in a squad column, fire team column to the line of departure. So he's skipping over here. From the line of departure, we will transition into a squad column, fire team wedge, travel 500 meters to the attack position. From the attack position, we will travel 1,500 meters to the assault position. At the assault position, we will transition into a squad line, fire team skirmishers, and attack the enemy at the objective location. Throughout the movement, if we have contact with the enemy, we will immediately transition into squad line, fire team skirmishers left or right, depending on the direction of the enemy. That's a pretty fat statement. I'll make sure to give you guys this PowerPoint. But it covers everything, and I'm pretty sure. You see, this is another thing I'm not entirely sure on because I can't find a better source, and I found conflicting sources. I'm not sure if it goes assembly area, attack, line, assault, objective, or if it's a different order. And at OCS, I never was asked, so I don't know. So I'm sorry about that, you guys. I can't tell you. This is what I'm pretty sure it is. Assembly to attack to LOD to assault to objective. But
That's what we were taught. It's the same.
well, some people get these two flipped
Oh,
with
assembly to
no.
assault and then LOD to attack.
Yeah, exactly. But I don't know. And really, I don't see the difference because it kind of works either way.
Yeah, attack and
So,
assault are the same.
so unless you guys find out, if any of you guys find out at OCS this summer and figure it out for sure, let me know because I'll probably forget the question by then. Okay. So the first section of your execution was your concept of operations, right? You did the commander's intent. I wouldn't consider that a full section. It's pretty simple. And then you do concept of operations, which is a pretty meaty section. We can go over that again. That's like the meatiest section, I think. So after you do the concept of operations, then you go into the tasks. And the difference between the tasks and the concept of operations is that in the tasks, you're kind of going over the concept of operations again. You're going over all those steps again, but this time you're assigning it to each of your subordinate leaders, each of them individually. but you do it after you go over the entire order in your concept, because you want everyone to know the overall arching mission and the idea of how the attack is going to go before you give them orders. That way, in case someone goes down or if someone gets if something happens, at least they know, like, okay, if this guy gets down, if his squad gets destroyed, then my left flank is vulnerable. But if they don't know that, and they'll just keep going, and it's all bad. They have to know where their weaknesses are possibly. It's like it's kind of like the what are they called? The Spartans. How each one of them protected the man with their shield. They didn't protect themselves with their shield. They protected the guy to the sides of them, and they all have to know how it works in the concept of operations before they can be given a task. Otherwise, there's no point in giving them the task because no one will know what's happening if something goes wrong. Um, so there's my rant. But in your tasks, you have to give each of them their specific task in mission format, and each of them individually, of course. And you have to repeat it twice, just like the missions. Um, so if you're the squad leader, then you have to say 3 different sentences telling them what to do to each of the fire teams. And you're not talking to the whole fire team. You're not talking to all 13. You're only talking to these 3 people here. And if you're a fire team leader, if you're in Suli 1, then it's a little bit simpler. That's why I'm hoping you guys breeze through Suli 1. I'm hoping, because you're talking to an individual. You see how, I mean, that's pretty simple. You're just talking to these 3 guys like, hey, I want you to do this, I want you to do this, and I want you to do this. It's pretty simplistic when you're doing that. A little bit more complicated when you have 3 leaders with 3 individuals each. And the bigger you get, the harder it gets. So if you're a major and you're in charge of a battalion, then you have like 3 or 4 captains, and then each of those captains has 3 or 4 squad leaders, and each of those squad leaders have 3 or 4 on their own. So it just gets much bigger and bigger and bigger. So the principles are the same no matter how high up you go. It sounds like this. First fire team, you're the main effort. It's important to assign who's the efforts, and whether they're main or supporting. That's an important feature of the mission. And the tasks are just missions, but individual missions. You're the main effort. On order, you will attack and destroy the middle 1/3 of the enemy located at the objective in order to clear out the enemy line of communications. Second fire team, on order, you will attack and destroy the left 1/3 of the enemy located at the objective in order to clear our lines of enemy communications. Third fire team, on order, you will clear out the right 1/3. And you do all that, and I don't want to waste more time, but you repeat it twice. Right? And the mission, you're supposed to say when. So the first thing of the mission is when, but if you say on order, that counts because you're telling them what time. When I tell you, that's what you're saying when you say on order. So that counts perfectly fine. Plus, you don't have a watch when you're out there, so you might need to use on order anyways. Execution, coordinating instructions. These pertain to everyone, common to everyone. Provide tactical instructions to the subordinate units. So timeline, base unit. Base unit is whoever is in charge of your main effort. So here I had first fire team as the main effort. That's your base unit. Order of movement. You can say something sort of like, I'm going to draw another diagram. You guys, I know you probably loving it right now. A lot of diagrams. Let's say, so we do AA, ATK, LOD, ASL, T. and then OBJ. And that's a basic format. So you do that. Here, your order of movement might be a column. And moving their squad's going to move this way like that in 3 segments for fire teams. And then at the attack position, you're going to move into a wedge. At the line of departure, you're going to transition into a line. At the assault position is where the circles split up into skirmishers. And then you move through. And then you do the 180, and then you do the 360. Does that make sense? Anyone not getting it so far? Because the execution is the hardest part, I'd say, actually, or the biggest. So if anyone needs me to slow down or stop or go back, or if I'm forgetting something, you need to tell me. So yeah, there's that chart. Let's get down to it. Let's see, where are we? Oh, coordinating instructions, of course. Where was I? I was right here. Yeah, in your coordinating instructions, it's also important to add things like, if you're not sure where the enemy is, then it's very important to tell them that they have to keep their volume down, or they have to use no voice, or if there could be booby traps. If your commander, if the person grading you tells you that expect ambush, that's a coordinating instruction. That's something that you should be ready for. And not only should you be ready for it, but it should affect how you develop this chart here. It should change that depending on what the order is. If they tell you that there could be booby traps, then maybe you want to stay in this formation until you get here, or something like that, to protect your people from getting for stepping on mines or whatever it is. Volume is an important thing, and then when you're doing LRCs, I don't know how many of you have done LRCs over in the Bay Area where we're supposed to do mini, but when you do LRCs, it some of the area is marked red, and you're not allowed to touch it. And if you fall off the platform, you die, and you have to wait 1 minute before you can go back to helping your team do an LRC. So there's certain things like that, like small rules it's like a game almost, like where there's tiny rules that um, that everyone has to follow in order to make the situation harder. But in the real world, of course, coordinating instructions could be something like snipers. Watch out for snipers in windows. You know what I mean? Like, it doesn't matter what it is in the real world. You could put anything there that pertains to everyone. Coordinating instructions, tactical control measures. You could put your grid coordinates. You could also directly transfer whatever they give you from the coordinating instructions, which is usually the tactical control measures. Route to the objective, what I just kind of drew up here. Yeah, and then, so that's it for execution. I'm going to try to go over that real quick. Oh God, my screen's not loading. Okay, there we go. Yeah, so execution takes up a majority of my slides. And it really only has these 4 headers. It has commander's intent, which is pretty small. Concept of operations is a fat MF. And then tasks is equally as big, but it kind of just covers the same stuff as the concept of operations, so it's kind of easy to go through it again. And then your coordinating instructions really depends on your mission, how big it is. Sometimes you breeze right through it, sometimes it's fatter. But those are the main sections. There's those 4 for the execution. But I'm pretty sure when you get to TBS, there's other sections that get added into there as well. But we don't need to worry about that. For OCS, you get these 4. Let me check my notebook. Yeah, I think that's it. Okay, so that's it for the execution. Those 4 sections. And then each of those sections has subsections, and then subsections, and then subsections. Where was I? So the 4th paragraph is admin and logistics. You guys probably remember this if you've done a SULI at least once, or a 5-paragraph order at least once. Beans, bullets, band-aids, bad guys. Most of that, this paragraph, I write that the day before. I mean, there's literally no reason why it would change. Or sometimes I won't even write it. I'll just come up with it on the spot because there's no difference between what you're. I mean, if you're not the first person doing the SULA, you can almost copy the person before you. I mean, there's no difference between um, your guys' stuff. Your beans, you have MREs always, or usually, or you don't. Maybe you don't have any, and then you can just say no MREs, no beans, easy. No bullets or 10 bullets, whatever you have. Band-aids, corpsman, that Jeep, whatever it is. And bad guys. I don't remember what it stands for, but there's 5 S's and a T. Does anybody know what that stands for?
Tag,
Yeah, tag.
search, secure, tag, safeguard to the rear, something like that.
Yeah, there's like a certain procedure for dealing with prisoners of war. And what I always said, I said this. No EPWs. Enemy prisoners of war. No, none of them. We're not taking them. And that always worked for me. I have an example here. It's pretty fat. I'm not even going to read it. But the EPWs be handed by fire team. They hand off to platoon sergeant. Yeah. And then it goes even deeper. You have canteens, map pens, protractors, MREs, rounds, magazines, all at the assembly area. But you can come up with that before you even start your order because there's no reason you shouldn't have anything different. Yeah, it's a pretty easy section. Command and signal. Signal is what you're using for communication. So if you're a logistics officer, this section gets pretty fat. I mean, if you're a logistics officer and you're invading Normandy, um, you're having the worst day of your life because you have to land on, you have to land on a beach and you have to supply all the troops with everything indefinitely. So this list gets longer and longer and longer, and it gets nastier. And down here in command and signal, let's say you're I don't know, an intelligence officer, or you're I don't know, you're someone, radio officer. I don't know what they have. I don't know what kind of MOS that would do. Signals intelligence, some shit. But if you're doing this, there's radio call signs, different frequencies for radios, for airplanes, all kinds of shit, passwords, protocols, procedures, emergency signals, different color flares. Different color flares do different things. Oh, you got a gold Worrell? That's cool, man. I'll record the rest. This is it. It's just signals and command. So that's the easiest section. So cool. Thanks for listening, my man. Signals, go over all those kind of things. But at OCS, you're not going to have any of that. So all you do is hand and arm signals, and you use your voice. So you're using your voice and your hands. That's it. And you might wave your rifle around. And they call that havoc, hand and arm, voice on contact. So what they're saying is that you can only use your hands to communicate with each other, and you have to be silent unless you're being in a combat. So if you're not getting contact with the enemy, you're completely silent. You don't talk, and you walk slowly. You keep your footsteps silent as well. Command, location of key personnel, succession of command of the units. This is usually directly transferred, or honestly, you could just come up with this on your own. I mean, this doesn't even need to be written down because basically, if you're the squad leader, literally just say, okay, first fire team leader, second fire team leader, third fire team leader. Those are the people who take command if you get shot. I don't see any reason for that to change for anybody. That should be the same. And the location of commanders, platoon sergeants, and squad leaders, You can just say assembly area. It doesn't even matter. Or you can say they're at the classroom because you're at OCS. They're all there. Everyone's there. So it doesn't matter. And that's about it for command and signal, admin logistics. I can read what it sounds like. Um, signal. We'll use hand and arm signals during movement. Upon enemy contact, we will switch to voice commands. That's Havoc. That's what Havoc is. Platoon commander is located with first squad. Platoon sergeant is located with second squad. Squad leader is located with first fire team. Succession of the command is first, second, and third squad fire team leaders. If you can say it pretty fast, that's good. But if you're sitting here trying to figure out all this information for this, where the commanders are, you're just wasting time. So just come up with something quick and throw it in there. You shouldn't even have to write it down. I wrote down a slide of techniques. How are you guys all doing on time? I don't know. I don't know how to go over anymore. This is about it. But before you start your SULI, you should have your subordinates hold all questions until the end. Speak loud, clear, and make sense. That's a big part of it. Even if you say all the ditties and you get every section of it correct, but you sound bad, they might not. You might lose points for that just for itself. Repeat all grid coordinates. When giving tasks, you need to know who you're giving the tasks to. So before you start your SULI, you need to know the names of the people you're talking to. I mean, like you can't go out there and say, just that's pretty simple. I don't need to elaborate. At the end of the SULI, or at the end of your 5-paragraph order, when you read it to them, you have to ask for questions. And you can ask the instructor for if you have questions as well. You can ask them to repeat certain sections if you don't quite remember it. And they will reread it. So if you forgot what the enemy was and you didn't have enough time to write down the enemy situation, you can ask the captain or the whoever it is, you can ask them to repeat it, and they will. Supervise. Monitor. Yeah, monitor the fire. Make sure that they have even spacing during the attack. Make sure that people don't go like this. So you'll have like a team. I'm just going to draw a fire team. You'll have a fire team, and they're attacking an enemy, right? What they're supposed to do is go straight all the way through the objective. But sometimes because you're in Virginia and it's wooded and it's a swamp, it's really nasty. People will arch in. Or this guy over here, he'll see the bad guy and he'll start walking towards him. He starts going this way. And this guy, he sees the bad guy and he starts going this way too. And they're going at different speeds because one guy's hella fast and the other guy's a slow guy. So your shit starts to look all stupid. Like instead of being a line, it looks all retarded. And you have intersecting sectors of fire. So this guy right here, if this guy might be in front of this guy, and now if he shoots, you're getting deducted points because he's in the way and he's firing at his own buddy, and they're out of order, and it just looks like crap. So make sure you're communicating and you're yelling at your guys constantly to stay in line, because it's really easy and it's really loud out there. So it's really easy to lose that form and to end up all stupid. And then when you get that hasty 180, make sure that it looks good. The 360, make sure it looks good. And you have to tell them where to move. You tell them. They don't just get up and do it. You're in charge. You guys, you really should know the 5-paragraph order before you go to OCS. I mean, you shouldn't go there and assume that they're gonna teach you everything, because you're gonna be tired as shit. You're gonna be hella tired. Like you're gonna be passing out. Like you touch your pillow and you fall asleep. So you definitely shouldn't do that. And if you can do shorthand, That also helps. So I personally don't like shorthand that much. I like drawing diagrams. I draw diagrams whenever I can. But it looks kind of like this, where everything gets smaller. Fire team goes smaller. Instead of writing meters, you just put M. Squad column becomes call. Here's abbreviations. So you can abbreviate everything to make it easier for yourself. And that's it. That's all I have. You guys want to go over anything?
I'm good.
Yeah. O, S. Yeah. Orientation. Current. OBJ. Terrain. What else? DIR. Direction of attack. Situation. Enemy. Friendly. ATT. DTT. Attachments, detachments. Mission. W's. Who, what, when, where, why. Execution. Com. What else is it? Commanders. Const. Op. Oh God, I can't write. Oh God, let's pretend I didn't just write that. You have your commanders attack, concepts of operation, tasks, and you have your coordinating. This one is, what is this one again? Execution. Oh, admin and logistics. That's beans, bullets, bad guys. You could just write 4 B's. And then command and signal, which is I like to put key, and then I put succession. So key leaders, succession of command. And that's it. I mean, this is literally it. And it doesn't really change when you get to TBS, it just gets bigger. And when you become a general, it's the same. It just gets bigger. All right. You guys have any questions? That's it. I'm done. Thank you guys for listening.
Thank you. I'm out.
Yeah. Yeah, that was fun. No questions?
The time is now.
I recorded it. I'll see if anybody wants it. I don't know. I just have the MP4 of it. I don't know. There's videos on YouTube of it.
That was solid.
But all right, I'm gonna end the chat if no one has questions.
Thanks again.